The K39 V2 has been my favorite case for a long time. The PC can fit inside a small camera bag, which allows me to carry it everywhere. When I moved to Texas and was waiting for my main PC to be shipped along with my car, the K39 PC kept me gaming and entertained just as usual. However, the case is a bit too cramped for my current hardware. Both side panels are bulged out to avoid the GPU fan from touching the panel and to fit the CPU cooler. Every time I pick up the case, I have to be very careful and have to check for my graphic card fan clearance before turning on the PC. I decided to try out the new K39 V3, which has been out for a long time. The V3 is much roomier than the V2 because it can support taller CPU coolers. The case is also longer, so GPU installation will be easier, as the V2 requires me to disassemble the entire build just to remove the card. I purchased the K39 V3 on Amazon and it does not come with a PCI-E riser, so it is more expensive than the previous model. This case is also significantly heavier because it is made of steel, so it does feel much more secure when I pick it up. Inside the accessory box, you will find screws all over the place, a magnetic screwdriver, belt and case handle for transportation, 2 mesh filters for the 2 side panels, and a small instruction written in Chinese. There is an extra acrylic side panel which I would avoid because it can easily be scratched. Another difference between the two versions is the front I/O. Both the USB-A and C ports of the case use the USB 3 header on the motherboard, and despite being flat, the cable seems like it can be used in a full-size case. It is so damn long and would be a pain when it comes to cable management later. And the power button does not have the power LED light like the V2. They both sound similar when pressed. Now it is time to transfer the components from the V2 to the V3. I guess this is probably the last time I showcase this case. Probably, because who knows. This is also my chance to take care of the dirt of the card. I wish it has passive fan curve so that the fan does not run all the time, which makes it a bit cleaner. Even though I tried to be careful and slowly twisted the cooler, the CPU was still stuck on the heatsink and pulled out of the motherboard. This is not the first time to happen, so I am glad that AMD switched to LGA for the AM5 system. I removed the CPU cooler not only to clean the fan but also to replace the Ryzen 9 5900X with the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D. I bought this when I was traveling to Oregon, so it was cheap and no tax. The chip can perform well at 1080p with the RTX 3060 Ti and slow RAM. While removing the panel, I noticed there was pan dust on the screws, so the paint job is still not great. The installation process is similar to the V2. We start off by removing the main frame of the case to mount the motherboard. I think the accessory box also have parts for other cases like K29 and 49, so just grab the screws you need and ignore others. You can screw the PCI-E riser to the frame, but you can screw it later after installing the GPU. The main frame can now be screwed back into the case. Make sure to have the USB 3 cable like this so that you can tie it up later. After that, the flex PSU can be slided under the motherboard. If you have a modular PSU, the cable should be plugged in too. Some people have been asking about a power supply, so this is the custom-made enhanced 600 watt which I have been using for years. They are the well-known brand, so it is safer than some weird Chinese brands. I have the link in the description so that you can find one. And as I expected, the long USB 3 and power cable drove me nuts to tie them up. They are extremely annoying to keep clean. If you use 2.5 inch drives, the SATA cable should be plugged into the board and routed to the GPU side. With that, we are done with the CPU side. The back panel and the CPU side panel can be installed to the case so that we can continue with the GPU. Flip the case over, we can plug the PCIe power cable into the GPU and install the card to the riser cable. The case has mesh filter at the bottom, so if you want to install 2.5 inch drives, you need to make some holes for the screws as the mesh block them. then plug the SATA and power cables to the drives. I use 1TB and 2TB SSDs to give me some extra storage. Secure your drives to the case and we complete the build. Or, that was what I thought. Well, I had to take out everything and created a makeshift test bench. I did not expect the 5800X 3D to be this hot due to its big cache. This chip is much hotter than the Ryzen 9 5900X. After removing the components, I took out the cooler and added a bit more thermal paste to ensure we had good contact. Many people mentioned that undervolting the 5800X 3Ds would make it perform better with lower temperature. You can undervolt this chip with the latest BIOS, but I stick with a BBO2 tuner software as this is faster to change the values and quite easy to set up. I set the curve of -30 for all the 8 cores. For power limit, PPT is set to 95 watts, TDC is 70 amp, and EDC is 90 amp. Again, you can set these values in the BIOS, but I will have the link to the tutorial of how to set up with this software. In Cinebench R23, initially, the multi-core result was only around 13,300, but after undervolted, my CPU score was improved to 14,000. With good cooling, you can expect to get around 15,000 plus, but I am happy with what I currently have. With the system outside the case, I ran Cinebench R23 for 30 minutes to see how hot the CPU can get. The temperature still reached its 90 degrees limit, but it took much longer to get. Initially, after 2 runs, all 3 rows would already be at the 90, so it was a huge improvement in thermal. To see if the system was stable, I had Y-Cruncher run for around 1.5 hours. There was no crash or error reported. Some people prefer running these tests for a whole day to really be sure, but for gaming and video editing, 1.5 hours should be extreme enough. With everything tested outside, it should be safe to reinstall back to the case. It is time for me to check the CPU temperature again. Well, inside the case, the temp does not look great. The temperature shot up to 90 degrees as soon as I ran Cinebench. The reason is we now have a bigger case that can accommodate taller CPU coolers. With a black ridge, we have a big gap between the heatsink and the case panel. The fan underneath the black ridge just keeps sucking all the hot air circulating inside the case. With the K39 V2, the heatsink was pressed against the case and the fan was provided with all the fresh air from the outside. So the solution here would probably either getting a fan duct or a taller CPU cooler. Well, enough with Cinebench and temperature, let's just launch a game and play. In the Anubis map of CSGO, there is a spot right here that I noticed in offline deathmatch with bots. At 1080p, with my stock 2900K paired with fast memory, the FPS dropped below 200. For the 5800X 3D, at the same spot, we can see the FPS is very similar. I think the map and the game need to be more optimized, but that's why we will have CS2. CSGO is just too old now. Overall, we constantly hit 300 FPS across the map, which is similar to my previous 5900X. Next is the sound and temperature of the system during idle and gaming. So, honestly, even though I like the case, I don't like the temperature, but it was my fault for choosing this CPU and the cooler. I have not given up and I will try to find a way to improve the CPU temperature. For now, it is good to back up and bring it along with me when I travel. For the case, the front I/O is actually very useful for keyboard and mouse. The gap between GPU fan and the case panel is just around 1mm, so it is very tight. Talking about tight, the case still fit in my old camera bag, but I really had to squeeze it in to zip it up. Other than that, the build experience was much better than the V2, thanks to its slight increase in volume. So this is the first part of the K39 V3. In the next video, I will try to find a way to fix the temperature of the CPU. If you are interested, please subscribe and stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.